Hello and welcome. You are listening to The Hello You Show. I'm your host, Jessica Rice, and the founder of Jessica Rice Coaching. This show is for ambitious and visionary-minded women leaders and entrepreneurs ready to uplevel their impact and establish their personal brand and unique voice. It's time, ladies, to make our voices heard. Say hello again to the real you. Hello, thank you so much for joining us at the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice. I am the host of the show and also the founder of Jessica Rice Coaching. And today I am so excited to share with you a wonderful and special guest that we have joining us who has an incredible story, Christine Inez. And she is this visionary entrepreneur who has just developed this wonderful life for herself. And I can't wait to share with you. But I wanted to first give a little bit of an intro. So Christine is a visionary entrepreneur, a storyteller, and the CEO and founder of the Corporate Escapists, which is a renowned media company that harnesses the power of storytelling to help entrepreneurs attract their ideal clients. She has a deep understanding of the profound impact that stories have on human connection and consumer behavior. Christine has revolutionized the way that entrepreneurs communicate and sell their products and services. And in addition to her work with the Corporate Escapists, she is also a sought-after speaker and thought leader in the field of storytelling and entrepreneurship. Her insights and strategies have helped countless individuals break through the noise, build authentic connections, and achieve remarkable success in their respective industries. So I am just so thrilled to have her on with us today. So welcome, Christine. I'm so happy to have you here joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I would love, I gave a little synopsis of yourself, but you have this incredible story, and I would love if you, wouldn't mind sharing with our listeners just how you got to where you are today, and share a piece of that.
Yeah. I guess the starting point is 2015. I was actually, doing what was expected. I was climbing that corporate ladder. I was married, had a child, doing what life, is expected of us. And then I was diagnosed with 2 life-changing illnesses. From then, I also realized I was in a toxic, unfixable marriage. I then had to file for bankruptcy and ended up sleeping on my parents' couch. So my whole world, like the whole catalyst of everything, just started to, crumble around me. But what I then discovered was the beauty inside of it. And I wouldn't say that it was one light bulb moment. It was a couple of different things. But one of the key things somebody asked me was, what are you doing now? And it was the first time I couldn't answer it because I'd always been attached to my job title. So without, working, like I'd done corporate for 22 years and without having a job, it was the sort of the first thing that I sort of realized, well, I don't even know who I am anymore. And that really then started this sort of, ripple effect of going on our self-discovery journey, but also not just personally, but also physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then a few years later, direct how much I was enjoying, and I'd stepped out of what I call my pity party, with I had for quite a few years, which is the poor me, the why me, this is all happening to me. And then I started sharing my story of what had happened and how I started changing. And then that was nearly 4 years ago. And now I've been able to build a global business around storytelling and, just showing people the power of not only owning your story, but also what you can do to help other people by sharing your story to let them know that they're no longer alone. And then using that power and harnessing that just for business owners, so that what sets you apart from everybody else in business is you and your story. And yeah, being able to create coaching programs, an online magazine, a TV show, a podcast, and also co-author books as well.
So it's incredible. I'm just so inspired by your story and all of the things that you've been able to create once you start to recognize who you are and that what you were meant for more. And like you said, kind of got out of your pity party where you were feeling kind of, woe is me in sort of sense, but that also led you to this incredible moment of power and strength for yourself. And I'm curious, how did you have the impetus to start thinking about how you share your story? Was that something that came to you, just kind of fell upon you?
It fell upon me. So, people were asking questions, and then I was in some networking sort of groups, just sort of like to start getting myself out there. I'd been away from like the Queensland area for quite a few years, so didn't know anybody really. And then an amazing human being said, "I'd love to interview you." And we did a Facebook Live, and that was sort of like the catalyst of everything that sort of happened. But, as I've started to share more of it and learning the art of crafting it and, taking people on that beautiful journey, with it, then I started to realize the impact that that was having and just learning more. Like, I'd literally be sitting there watching YouTube videos of other people, how they would craft their stories and learning from them as well.
Okay, so it sounds like you almost kind of fell into it, but then it just took off, and people were so touched and inspired by your own story and journey. What led you to start wanting to help other women with their stories and sharing them?
Well, when I was going through sort of all the chaos back then, you know, there wasn't a lot of people out there being vulnerable and sharing, because I think believe that society has this point where, we've always got to have a filter on life and everything has to be all perfect and, I guess like Instagram worthy, I guess is the key thing for it. But the part for me was that I wanted to look out for somebody who maybe had gone through something and knowing that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and I couldn't find it. So I thought, well, if I'm sharing my story and it just even helps one person, then that's going to be, all the pain and anguish that I'd actually gone through, I could help somebody else and let them know that, there is a light at the tunnel. It's not another train coming head on, that we can actually get through this. And that really was the starting point to it. And then I discovered life coaching and, did a life coaching course, and then just realized the impact that, your story and what you've gone through, because you've been able to overcome it, that is really important to show people, that you literally get basically in the trenches with them to let them know that they're not alone, and that you can really have such a good empathy for them as well, because you've been through, life as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's such a key part that you're also bringing up, which is the fact that I think that we do often feel like we're alone. We're walking through, and because we don't talk about it and we don't share some of the experiences that we have within our lives, we can feel so isolated. And yet, the power is when we actually start to vocalize and verbalize what we've gone through in our lives. And that's kind of how you're ushering women and other people to really explore the power, even when we've gone through something painful, the power that's on the other side of sharing that. So I
Mm.
know you have with the Corporate Escapists. Tell me more about that. So you're helping women share their stories. Are you also helping them to recognize their dreams to a certain extent or a greater extent as well? Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we obviously have the magazine, which helps the business owners get visible, but also have coaching programs as well. And these coaching programs are sort of like in three different levels. So I call it like level one is sort of like discovering who you are. So, that was literally where I was at, in my pity party moment. I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know what I wanted. But also, too, I wasn't even giving myself permission to dream again, because I thought, well, this is it. You're done, you're dusted, sort of thing.
Mm.
So I developed some coaching programs to really help people take them through what I call the three different levels. So it's, getting to know you, really then starting to expand on that dream and vision, and then basically, being a true, what I call corporate escapist. And, corporate escapist is not just about you, escaping corporate as such and, leaving and, having to start your own business. what it really is about escaping that corporate mentality and actually having a purpose and mission, values, vision for you and your life, and being able to integrate that fully as well. So no matter where you're working, that you are your own person and you can really, shine authentically yourself as well.
I love that. And I love that you just brought up the fact too, like, I think so often we do think that it's too late. Like, we've already gone down a certain road. And so there's no real changing the path. And I think we're even taught that when we're kind of going through college. It's like, here's your path and you must follow it, or some extent of that.
Mm.
And what you're giving is this freedom and this idea that you're not really stuck. In fact, you have lots of choices where you can pivot. And to your point, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're even escaping corporate. So would you say it's even just kind of, it's more finding alignment for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, look, we're brought up to, you go to school, you get a good job, and when you retire, that's when you have fun. And that really has been the society norm for such a long period of time. And then when you start sort of going, oh, I think I want to do this. So if you think back of being a child, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you can get shut down. And then that actually starts to limit your thinking, starts limiting, your dreams of what you think your life could be. So imagine if you could go back being a child again and start rediscovering all the things that you love and all the things that you want to do. So it doesn't matter what age you're at, it's all absolutely possible. A lot of the times is that we just have to give ourselves permission to dream again. And there is, I think since COVID's taught us so many blessings, and I know there's a lot of heartache with it, but the key blessing is that we can think outside the box. So many amazing businesses got started in COVID, so many businesses pivoted, and what if you can actually now start thinking outside the box for your life of what that would be? Go and travel, go and, build a business online. There's just so many different opportunities now that we can have, that we no longer have to live and follow that pathway that society thinks of us. Let's actually take that road less travel, like let it to be bumpy. I wrote a post last night. It was, I'm feeling a little lost and confused myself, but that's okay. It's a time for self-discovery, and I think everybody needs that self-discovery within themselves, because with every conversation, every moment, every life experience that happens, and we can have that on a daily, event, that we actually are becoming a completely different person because we're learning and growing. So it's okay to take those times out and to actually start rediscovering who we are and actually what we want for our lives.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so rich in the sense that you're giving yourself permission to rediscover who you are, and that we aren't stuck in one mode. And I think that we feel that way too. And when, we have our friends around us and there's people who know us, and sometimes they're not even receptive to the change and the transformation that we might be undergoing, knowing that, there's a different life that we're looking to lead.
Mm.
What type of message would you send to women who might be considering, exploring their dreams to a greater extent, or exploring, how they align their lives so they feel like they're thriving in more fulfilling ways?
That's such a good question. A lot of the times, like, we're either in a relationship, we've got kids, we've got family around us, and we're always so considerate. I think as women that we really start to really consider so many other people, but it's actually time for us to come back to self, and actually considering what we want is not selfish. It's actually giving self-love and respect back to ourselves. So I feel like the biggest thing for people is to really start thinking of self and start thinking about what you want, what you desire with it. Because, sorry, that's my dog going crazy. But yeah, it's really just coming back to self and just, knowing that, it's okay for you to, follow your dreams. It's okay for you to change careers, and it's never too late for you to do that. And, life is so short. And, I mean, people say to me, oh, how do you do it all? But the thing is that you just do. And if you've got that passion inside of you, give it a go. And I never see anything as failure anymore. I see it as just a learning experience. So if you could think about what would it be like if you didn't think that you could fail, because it's not failure. It's just literally you learning more about yourself. And it's like going into an ice cream store, and if you always order like chocolate ice cream and you never try any other flavor, how do you know what you like and you don't like?
Mm-hmm. And I think you bring up a really good point too, which is I think that women, we do, I don't know, whether we're raised that way or if it's just innate within us, but we do tend to put ourselves on the back burner and devote so much of ourselves to other people. And what we don't recognize is that we can't really serve others if we aren't serving ourselves to a greater extent. And we're not really able to show up in the ways that we even want to be seen or heard or valued if we're not valuing ourselves. So I think that's such a poignant message that you're bringing to the situation, and then allowing yourself to continue dreaming and rediscovering at the same time. So what do you find, you've worked with lots of women, you have the podcast, you have your magazine and all these programs that you work with. But what do you find to be, when you're working with someone, what's the most fulfilling part for you?
It's those little light bulb moments that they have, and then they come back, to you and they say, I never thought I could do this, or I never had anyone believe in me the way that you do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just these little things, and they make, just one tiny little change that has such a big, huge ripple effect in all of their lives. As like it's very much like going into that ice cream store, and they've just tried a different flavor, and they're like, oh my god, I didn't think I would like that, but I do. Like it's just those tiny little things. That's the most rewarding part for me, because they're actually living life. They're not just, like I call it, sleepwalking through life. They're living it. They're experiencing it. They're allowing the highs and lows, all of it, and allowing themselves to feel every single moment of it as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think, that's the beautiful thing with coaching too. I think sometimes we feel like we have to, for embarking something, we have to do it on our own. And we don't recognize the power of just having someone in your court who isn't so familiar even with who you are, where they have their own preconceived ideas or past judgments of yourself. When you can work with somebody who can really help you to shine and see all the greatest pieces of you, and then that builds so much confidence just moving forward and having the courage to keep moving forward. Because as we know, entrepreneurship or just anytime you embark, it's a little bit of a bumpy ride. It's not always completely smooth. You might get a little bit of, bruises along the way too.
Yeah.
So when personal resilience, because clearly, you've had your own journey of resilience and overcoming, how do you help other women kind of get through that so they can see, so they stick to the path and they don't, give up before it's too late?
Mm. I think a lot of it is the self-reflection side of it, is that sometimes we don't realize, that word resilience, it's such a huge topic at the moment, that so many people are going, oh, you're such a resilient person, or, oh, you don't know how strong you are. And a lot of the times we don't, because we actually don't reflect back on what we've overcome, because we either blocked it out or we've just gone through it. And if you've gone through any moment challenging, or even, celebrated some success, have you actually celebrated it? Have you actually given yourself the credit? And I think that's really what it is just recognizing that, hey, you're in this moment, like if you've reached out and you've gotten a coach, you need to celebrate that moment, because you recognize that, you're worthy of investing in yourself. You're worthy of, having somebody else help guide you. And that, I think so many people just don't do it. But if you've gone through so many, challenges in life, have you ever sat down and actually giving yourself a pat in the back and gone, oh my God, good job. Like, you've gotten to where you are today. Because, we just go through it, and then the next thing happens, and the next day comes along. We never celebrate, we never recognize. And I think that's the key part to it, is getting people to do that self-reflection of what they've overcome and what they've been through in life to get them to this very moment, because that shows you how much resilience they have.
Mm. Very well said. I think that we do have to, honor the things that we're doing, because I think that goes back to like how we put ourselves on the back burner sometimes, is that we don't ever celebrate when we do something well, and we're our worst critics sometimes. And so we don't make a point of recognizing when we're moving in a positive direction.
Mm.
So what do you think, or what do you find is some of the more common reasons that women do start to, you know, maybe they're considering leaving their corporate job, or maybe they're considering embarking on something new? What are some of the common threads that you start to see as you're working with women?
I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that they start to recognize that they're not happy, and they may have it all. Like, I mean, you have the marriage, you have the kids, you have the lifestyle, but there's just something that's just not fulfilling within you, and you can't pinpoint it. You're like, "Oh, I'm not depressed. I'm not, like, why am I feeling like this?" And I think that's probably the key, thread for people, that they start to realize that they've done everything for everybody else, that they actually know that it's actually their time. And that can happen at any stage. I mean, it took me into my 40s for me to recognize it. So I know that it can happen at any time for, people as well. But the other key point is just that, I think, I use COVID a lot because a lot of people, they're now starting to go back into the workforce. They're starting to, realize that they don't want the commute. They don't, they're not happy in the environment. They want to, it's not saying that they want to work for themselves, but they just want a different career. They just want something else, but they don't know what it is. And they're probably the two key things that I'm finding with people when they want to come and work with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's this interesting point when we start to, we've already been working for a little while. We've already kind of done what we've been told to do that would bring happiness and success. And yet when we start to reach it, we find that we're not as satisfied or fulfilled as we thought we would be. So I think even though it seems like later, it's really not, because I think there's this kind of golden time in our lives where we start to recognize where we need to, bring our power back, like you're saying. And we've already kind of done this path, and we're looking to the future. And what do we want those next, 40 years to look like at the same time? So we're,
Yeah,
considering that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, because we just don't want to keep going on repeat. Like,
Mhm.
it's like playing the same song. Like, after a while, you get sick of it, and you're like, every single word, and you want something new. You want something that's going to uplift you, and
Mhm.
create that spark within you, not with everybody else, but within yourself.
And I think when you were talking about the pandemic, it's so true. I mean, yes, it was really hard and challenging time that we all experienced. And at the same time, it really did bring about this kind of renaissance in terms of how we think about ourselves and what types of lives that we want to create for ourselves, and how resilient we really truly are, that we're capable of going through some of this, being creative in moments of complete chaos. um, which, it teaches us so much about ourselves when we're experiencing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are so resilient. Like, when you think about what we went through, which is like unheard of, like the whole world stopped. Not just
Mhm.
one country, the whole world stopped. And that had an impact in so many different ways, and we are so resilient just from that.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think that we grow. And look at, I mean, we're in completely different continents and we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
I know Zoom, it worked before we had it, but now everyone knows how to use, the new technologies
Mm.
and connect with each other in greater ways, no matter the distance, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah.
So I know that you have a lot of programs, but, how can women work with you, or how can they, reach out to you and know more about what you offer?
Yeah, look, you can head over to the website, which is the corporateescapists.com, or, just send me a DM on social media. So either on Instagram or Facebook, and both handles are at the Corporate Escapists, because, you know, there's a couple of different programs that I have. I don't announce all of them, but it could just be that we need to work one-on-one, or whether or not it's a group program. And I think this is what I've realized, is that there's just not a one fit all. We need to work out what's going to be right for you, what's your end goal with it. And we just literally have a really beautiful, soulful conversation and work out what's going to be the right area for you. And we've got loads of free resources that you can just download as well to get yourself started.
Well, wonderful. And we'll put all of that information into the content as well when this goes out. So I wanted to know, we've covered quite a bit of things in terms of your journey and how you help women, but I'm curious, what's one message that you would give to women who are considering, doing something more for themselves?
Oh, I love this question. I have a quote which I created, and it's called "Dreams plus action equal reality." So first of all, give yourself permission to dream big, and it's got to be a real scary goal that's going to, even frighten yourself, going, "Oh, there's just no way that I can do that." But then every single day, I want you to take aligned action towards that goal. And that literally could just be that every day you wake up and you make your bed. It could be that you're going to have a conversation with somebody different, join a networking group, or it could be, doing a free course. But that aligned action, and with having that big scary goal and that dream, it actually then all creates reality. And that's really what it all comes down to, is that your dreams plus your action equal reality.
I love that. I love that you have this, very easy to remember too. Dreams plus action equals reality. I mean, we can all remember that. And it's true. I think the bigger that we dream, the more that it, excites us. So it is scary, but it's also exciting. It's not very exciting if it's, something small. So,
Exactly. And celebrate everything.
mhm.
Like if you're having a bad day, I live with 2 chronic illnesses, and some days just getting out of bed is a reason to celebrate. Like, like you're tired, you're exhausted, and if you get out of bed and you have a shower, like, you need to celebrate that and not beat yourself up, because the more we celebrate ourselves, the more amazing things come our way.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point too, in the sense that, we just, sometimes we really are hard on ourselves because of little things that get in our way. And some days they're going to be great. And then other days, it's like the simple things. And if you can do that and still push yourself a little bit, that is worth celebrating.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you on the show today. I appreciate you coming on and just sharing with us about your story and how you help other women to really explore on a deeper level, what it is that they want to do with their lives so they can really get back into the driver's seat of what it is that they're looking to do and, I don't know, find fulfillment and thrive, in the next years that they're having.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And I love what you're doing, and so grateful to be here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thank you again. If you want to get in touch with Christine, you can find her on the Corporate Escapists or DM her on social media, and so she can be in contact.